Yo, welcome into another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, review, tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend. If you do not do these things, I'm going to assume you switch jerseys when your team loses. On today's edition, it's your boy just me on the solo dolo tip. Out here talking to you a lot about the NBA playoffs. Okay, we are talking all things basketball today. And we will touch a little bit on the NFL draft, which we will do a little bit later into the week. It's crazy to think it's already this week, you know? I always feel like there are certain times in the sports calendar where it just pops, you know? I think it depends, different people. I would argue that the best time in sports is late October, mid-October, till about maybe Christmas. Maybe not even Christmas, maybe Thanksgiving around that time. Because you really have the everything, right? Basketball, football, hockey, baseball, all going around at the same time. It's just an incredible time to have all four of the major sports going. It's a nice cool breeze in the air. And I would argue that part of it is the best part of the sports calendar right there. A strong contender is end of March, April. You know, your college basketball playoffs, the NBA and NHL playoffs are just starting. Baseball just getting back in the air. And you have a little bit of golf with the Masters. Shout out to Rory McIlroy. We do not do that here, that golfing stuff on this side, just because I don't know what I'd be talking about. But congrats to him. I think golf is the second hardest thing to do on a consistent basis in sports, right behind hitting a baseball. For those who don't know, Rory McIlroy has been doing this for forever. It's crazy. I remember when he didn't have gray hair, and now he does, which is kind of scary to think about. But he finally completes the career Grand Slam. He's got all the majors now. A lot of guys, a lot of people, a lot of analysts were picking him to win the whole thing. And I'm happy for him, a guy who took a lot of pellets, I think, for the post-Tiger kind of crew. I think most people thought he would be the best in the game, and he's one of the best. If not, I don't think anyone would say he is the best. But again, I don't know nothing about the sport, so I'm just yapping here. But shout out to the people of that age who be doing that golf and stuff. No, we will be talking about the playoffs. And the playoffs have been, I think if you're a hooper, fantastic. Casual fan, it's been a little hit or miss. We've had some blowouts. We've had some close games, some uninteresting games. And the game I'm going to start about is ironically one of those blowouts, because the fact that we went, when was that graphic? That had to be a month ago. So 65, 70 games into the season. And the first thing you see on ESPN is Oklahoma City having the greatest season of all time. It kind of just shows you how, basketball media can get just so funky. And I think most casual basketball fans are like, isn't that OKC team the team that Shannon Sharp's been rhyming with on First Take for the last couple months? Mind you, it's funny that this is taking off now. It really shows you the power of kind of workshopping things, because Shannon's been doing this for years now. This is not the first time he came up with the KFC, ABC, OKC, Lakers at 5 kind of thing. He's been doing that now for since he was on Undisputed back with Skip Bayless. So I think it's cool for him. Shout out to him, who just secured reportedly $100 million podcasting deal. So shouts to him and Chad Ochocinco. I think to just piggyback, or just to talk a little bit about that whole pod, or just athletes, I think in general, I think a post athletic career is one of the hardest things to do, and to actually figure out what you want to do in that. A lot of athletes would go into entertainment. I remember when Rick Fox was just an actor all the time. Shaq was acting all the time. Then my era was more the basketball players were like fake rappers. There was a Kobe Bryant album that you should go ahead and try and find and listen to. Allen Iverson dropped an album as well. There is a recording of Kevin Durant and LeBron James rapping somewhere. I know I heard it. You can find the tape, see where that's at. But that was that part. But now it's completely shifted. They're all doing podcasting. I think Shannon's done it in a way where he was a respected football player, Hall of Famer, and I think the challenge that I think Shannon has overcome has been not only to cut through the noise of what's happening, but you see he's given a lot of other people room to talk. I'm not the biggest fan of his show per se, of Nightcap and things of that nature, but there was a story before about a woman who accosted a man on his at his house when he wasn't there. He was pulling into this parking garage, and it became a big story in a very affluent neighborhood, which I'd never heard of. And Shannon, to his credit, amplified the story, and it was talked about more. And like stories like that aren't necessarily going to get the type of coverage per se if someone like Shannon Sharpe isn't the one pushing it. I obviously still have some type of critiques of overall media literacy, but at the same time, the idea of what the media is and what we're supposed to actually say or do, I think is ever changing. So a little bit of a side note for him, but shout out to Shannon Sharpe and his deal. That's a really big deal. I'm really happy for who he is as a person. But the team we're going to talk about, the team that he hates, is OKC. They beat the Grizzlies by 50. Actually, it didn't even matter how much they beat them by. They could have beat them by 100. I stopped watching that game before halftime. It was so odd, and I promise you I thought this in real time. I don't remember when they called their first timeout, but the Grizzlies were down either 8 or 10 points after the first stint of the first quarter. And there was a part of me saying, they kind of got to make a run here or else this game's going to get out of hand. And I didn't think how right I was going to be. They beat the brakes off them boys. And it goes back to the point that I was making before about with Mike Greenberg talking about the fact that there's no way that if this was the NFL version, we would not have this team be talked about and put on so many television screens all the time. Just because they're really, really, really fucking good. I mean, I think they have the MVP on the team. They're going to have at least anywhere between 2 and 3 guys make the all defensive team. They're going to might have 2 guys make all NBA. They just came out with the votes. Dagnall will not get Coach of the Year this year. He did not finish as a finalist, but it's one of those things where we talked about with my friend Kari a couple days ago. It's the team that everyone is trying to get, and the fact that they still have all these picks and whatever and yada yada. We already know the story about them, but the fact that their starters played 0 minutes in the fourth quarter is a real telling sign. I don't necessarily think it was just that good of OKC. I think Memphis is cooked. It's completely cooked. Now, I will say this regarding OKC, because this series is done. We like someone even tweeted out, we really don't need to see game 2. This needs to be the NBA TV series. We'll check back in with y'all in the Western Conference semifinals. They did do a version of this, not this bad, but they did do a version of this against the Pelicans last year. Pelicans team had to go through the play-in. They got out the play-in, and they got blitzed in game 1. They lost game 2, and then they ended up getting swept in that series. And I think the biggest thing is that what happens is that when OKC gets on you, it does feel like that early Golden State team where you can only get down by so many points because they just keep pouring it on. And it'll be interesting to see who they face in the second round, whether it be the Clippers or the Nuggets, the next kind of group that we're going to talk about in a bit. If you look at the way that they went down, the OKC's ability to turn people over and over again, lead the league in turnovers, lead the league in steals, turnovers forced, lead the league in steals, is the reason why they're able to get so many extra possessions and the reason why you can't catch up in games. Even though they don't shoot that many threes, they shoot at a great percentage all year round. But one of the reasons why I was interested in them potentially either playing the Lakers or playing, like I just said before, is that because the offense is going to run primarily just between two guys, whether it's James Harden or if you look at it, it's going to be Jokic, you're not going to be able to turn that team over as much just because of how much those guys handle the ball. It's kind of the reason why they lost to Dallas last year. They weren't able to turn Luka over as much as they normally did in the previous series, and obviously PJ Washington went crazy on them. So Oklahoma City, this is their time, even though it isn't their time. I just talked about them for a couple minutes, and now we're literally going to shove them over in the corner so no one watches them until like 2 weeks from now or whenever they're done mollywopping Memphis. On the Memphis front, it's looking dark for Ja. As someone who was thinking that this player was going to be on his favorite team back in 2019 and did a extensive amount of research into who he is as a player, I am concerned about the Grizzlies in the fact that they might have two players that were born too late, because you have a point guard who doesn't really shoot a lot of threes or attempts to shoot a lot of threes. He wants to get into the paint a lot and make a lot of baskets. And then you have a center who can't space the floor, who can't really move super well, and is a post player. It's like they're two of their most important players, not their best players, but two of their most important players seem like they would be really, really good in 2005. But it's 2025. And they just seem like they're in kind of this no man's land, and they just fire the coach. I don't think that this will be the time for them to trade Ja Morant. Since you just fired the coach, it would make sense to probably bring in a new coach, see if they're able to work any magic with the current roster. But it's getting close to calling time of death on, I think, Ja's time in Memphis, unfortunately, just because it hasn't really lived up to that peak moment of them when they went to the second round of the playoffs a couple of years ago. They've kind of been on this nowhere trend for a while now. But I think that game aside, I think the playoffs have just been really electric, and you see how much, I would say, buildings and moments matter. Speaking of the team we just talked about, or I just mentioned before, the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers. That game was the best game of the weekend so far. Note, we are taping this before Warriors Rockets, and we are also taping this during Cleveland and Miami. So this might change as we speak along, but those are their two best. That was the best game of the night last night that we had going forward. And Jokic is really good. We already knew how this was going to be. And the fact that Alderman, the new coach for the Denver Nuggets, was actually benched one of their starters, and Michael Porter Jr., and played Russell Westbrook, the guy that people have been crapping on the whole time about how he can't get it done in the playoffs. Massive three, made massive plays in that game, and helped them win the game. And I think sometimes what happens is like, I think the fact that they fired the coach and it felt like there was a weight almost lifted off of the team, and the fact that I think now their interim coach is like, well, fuck it. Like, what are they going to do? They can't fire me now. You know, I'm either going to do a good job and get the job, or I'm going to do a bad job and they're going to fire me. So it's like, I'm just going to throw shit at the wall and see what we can to win. I still like their chances. I picked the Clippers to win this series in 6. I'm sticking by that. I thought the Clippers had the game. It kind of blew the game at the end. But that's what it is about. You hear the playoff basketball. You hear the kind of the moments and how things can just make changes so fast. And I really think that's what kind of happened also in the Knicks Pistons series. Game, rather. The Pistons looked like they were dominating the game the whole time. You know, they got to what they wanted to. They were able to get to their spots. And while I felt in the beginning the Knicks might have been more control of the game, they weren't separating themselves. And then all of a sudden, the Garden woke up. And what ends up happening is, for everyone who keeps picking the Pistons and things like that, is there are certain things in the playoffs that just matter no matter what. Okay. Everyone always goes, well, like playoff experience doesn't mean anything until you get it. Yeah, until you get it. And when you get it is when you get your head snapped into place. All right. Playoffs experience is a real thing. How do I know this? The Pistons players who played the best in the series, in the game on Saturday, were all their old guys. It was Tobias Harris. It was Dennis Schroeder. It was Tim Hardaway Jr. And it was, who was their last guy? Malik Beasley. 4 guys, 4 vets, all been in the league, 8+ seasons. They're the only ones who weren't rattled because they've been there. They've been in finals games. They've been in conference final games. They've been in loud arenas, All the guys who struggled were all their rookies or all their, younger players. That clearly shows you that if you haven't been there, especially in that building that can get real loud, it's going to make the entire difference in the series. So Nick Sharp 1-0, see how much longer that one goes. Orlando, Boston. Orlando played great defense, and they cannot score. And until they find the ability to not have to basically go one-on-one or turn the other team over to score, they're not going to win the series. I have them winning a game just because I think there will be some random 3-point variancy, but that will be all for them. The game that I think will lead the talk shows, and I think that obviously we have to get a chance to talk about, will be the ass kicking is probably the best way to frame it between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I had the Lakers winning in 6 games. Still stand by that, but Timberwolves really showed something. It showed the fact that because the Lakers have 3 bad defenders, Austin Reeves, LeBron James is a bad defender, and Luka Doncic, you're always going to have an ability to attack one of those guys. And you really saw how bad the Minnesota went at Austin Reeves. I think it's going to be interesting because I felt like the key to the series was, for Minnesota, was Rudy. For his ability to stay on the court because they don't have a center. Jackson Hayes is not a starting caliber center. And if they can play him off the floor with their small lineup. But what happens is that because they can play Naz Reid at the 5, the Timberwolves can match the Lakers' ability to go small. And the fact that, again, Austin Reeves or Luka are always going to be out there, there's always going to be a guy for you to attack constantly. Now, you probably don't want to attack Luka so much. He's still 6'8", so just his pure size will impede someone. But Austin Reeves is he's too small. He's too, they're just going to be able to get around that guy. And they got punked at home. I mean, they're the only team as of this recording right now who has lost their first home game. And they've already showed kind of the stat of the teams that lose game 1 at home. It's about a coin flip of a chance of you winning the series. They also showed, I guess, LeBron's career after losing game 1. He's 12-11, so it's about the same, about a coin flip chance for him to win the series. I still think that the Lakers are going to win. I'm not counting them out. I don't think that this is a indictment per se, but we'll see how this goes. And it's only funny, someone made the point to me is that I felt going into the series, people were like, well, who has the coaching advantage? In my mind, I immediately went to JJ Redick. But this is his first playoffs also. And Chris Finch just got this same group of guys minus Karl-Anthony Towns to the conference finals last year, beating someone like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, beating the champ in the Denver Nuggets in Nikola Jokic in a game 7 in their building, down 20 points. Like, he's been orchestrating that with a bum knee. People forget that he tore his PCL. He tore something in his knee because someone ran into him. That was crazy. And he was still coaching. Shout out to Chris Finch, man. Man, that knee, whew, Lord Jesus, that couldn't be me. But that's kind of the energy of the playoffs and what it can mean. So the Lakers are going to have to get it quick, fast, in a hurry because them talk shows about to be on their ass bad. Switching over now to this week. This is the big NFL week, probably the biggest week of the offseason, I think, for the NFL before it kind of dies down again until we really get to like August, I would say, around that time for things to get back going. But it's the NFL draft, which is the best best TV show that we have in sports, I would argue. The pageantry of it, how much it shows, this one night can completely change the trajectory of a franchise's life. Think about what happened when Lamar was drafted by the Ravens, Josh Allen to the Bills, Patrick Mahomes to the Chiefs. Forever changed, right? And we will not know that until like 4 years down the road from a lot of these drafts. And I think the thing about the draft that's good and bad is that there's so much pre-show hype for the draft where there's 80,000 mock drafts and they kind of don't really matter in any kind of way. I think what has been better now, or I think what fans understand a lot more now, is that the draft is, one, unpredictable, and two, it's like a nice flowing river. You don't really kind of know how this bad boy is going to play out when it's going down to the ocean, right? We saw last year when Michael Penix went 8th overall, and that completely shifted everything. And then all of a sudden, Bo Nix is going 12th, and smart pick by them. I think this draft is going to be very much decided or very much interested on Shedeur Sanders' move. And while we are in a space of just clowning everything, he might be in for a long night. It appears that he's not even attending the draft from what's being reported, but Jalen Milrose is. Now, I think those things are tough to gauge just because you're not going to necessarily know per se that one team is definitely going to draft you. However, Jalen Milrose, from everything that I was reading, has been ranked at best as the 4th to 6th best quarterback in this class, and he's going to the draft. But the guy who's been rated number 2 this whole time isn't going. I think what it tells me is that at least he believes that he's going, on Thursday night. Before everything's done, he's going. Versus Shedeur Sanders, who might think, I'm going to just chill at the crib and this might go a bunch of different places. I'm fascinated to see where he goes. I'm not rooting for him to go later in the draft because I want him to be embarrassed. I'm rooting for him to go later because I want him to succeed. Because I think the teams that have now been floated around, now it's saying that the Saints might be interested in him, which I think that actually would be a good place to go. It's the indoors. Again, the division's wonky as hell. I would not be surprised. Well, I feel like we say this a lot, but Baker's run that division now for 3 years straight. So maybe I can't just say that. But it doesn't feel like it's a dominant, division to kind of get done. And maybe that's the team for him. But it's going to be interesting to see how he goes and see 32 majority black millionaires just get made on that night, And while Shedeur is coming from money, it's always good to have a little bit of money in your pocket. So shout out to Shedeur. And this is obviously the power of the NFL because, like I said before, you could have wall-to-wall coverage on most of the major sports networks on what's been happening in the NFL when we've basically just talked about the same thing. Where is Shedeur Sanders going to get drafted? And the point is that no one knows. And I think that's the beauty of how powerful the NFL is and how much they can make people basically regurgitate the same thing for 4 months. And we're also excited for the draft. So yeah, but that's it for you guys. Thank you guys again for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. We will be having a longer pod breaking down some things that will happen in the draft. What are our expectations? What are some things that we think will go well? What are some things that we think that will go poorly? And just the whole conversation of the draft in itself. Again, like I said, make sure you like, subscribe, review, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And like I said, I'll be back next week for you guys. All right, later.